believe it or not, another year is coming soon. I looked at the calendar and went, wait a minute, December? Oh, well, okay, just like that. Does the changing of the calendar year from 2018 to 2019 mean a lot to you? I mean, a calendar, face it, is arbitrary. The universe doesn't care about calendars. In fact, for most of mankind's history, we didn't care so much about calendars at all. Yet today, here we are, linked together through time and space in a system of counting seconds and minutes and hours and days and weeks and months and years and decades, something we all agree on. In fact, in today's fast-paced world, we couldn't get along without that system, right? But what if you want to take some time off? You still have to follow a calendar so you know when to show back up to work, right? You took some time off. 5 days go by or 10 or whatever, and you have to go back. Hi, it's Tim Patterson, Trade Show Guy. This is Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee for the first day of December 2018. Thanks for joining me. All right. No guest today, so I'm going to just kind of meander about a couple of things just for fun. I think about time and space now and then, and I wonder what it was like, for example, 1,000 years ago here in the land we now call America. I mean, before it was even called America. What the people living here, what they did to tell the time. They probably, got up when they woke up. Didn't have an alarm clock. Went to bed when they were tired or when it was dark. Ate when they were hungry. No clocks to mess things up or keep things straight, which there's a certain appeal to that, I think. My hunch is that they had an innate sense of time and seasons, for instance. Seasons come and go, but when you live through them, you feel them in your bones. They're part of your life, part of what moves you to do certain things like hunt and grow crops and so on. Bundle up because weather's coming, bad weather, or it's going to get sunny in a while, and it's going to get warm for the summer. You have a sense of how the seasons work and how the world turns. Even if you don't know that the world is around, you still know. Even if you don't know what the weather's going to be like in 10 days, like we can get a 10-day forecast now, you still know the seasons. And we spend so much of our time arranging our time, scheduling meetings and vacations and dinners and phone calls, when we can watch a TV show, when we can go out and join a friend for a drink, when we go to bed, when we wake up, we put reminders on our phones, we set alarms. Which brings me to this. I mentioned it's getting closer and closer to January 1st, 2019. So many of us say things like, I can't believe it, it's almost 2019. I remember when I was a kid, I was a young boy in the 60s, and at one point I looked up in the sky and I said, whatever day it was, let's say it was summer 1967, I went, this day will never happen again. And it was kind of like this big epiphany, right? And we say things like, can't believe it's almost winter already, like these things have never happened before. So why do we say that we have a hard time believing how time has passed? Time always passes. It always has, always will. The question is, what do you do with the time you have? It said, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Some people can be incredibly productive with that time and others not so much. And we never know when it's going to end. We just don't know. I heard in some book I was reading recently, life is like when you're born, you all of a sudden join this large movie, which goes on around you everywhere. And then at some point, the movie's over for you and you just step out, even though the movie keeps going. So we just never know when we're going to step out. So that brings me to this. How do you plan for a new year? Do you set goals? Do you do New Year's resolutions? If you set goals, how do you do that? What parts of your business or personal life are you setting goals around? I mean, personal goals such as, the normal ones are losing weight, exercising more. Maybe you're writing a book or something. You're traveling. These are our normal. And if you want to get something done, you should definitely make a goal and plan how to get there. How do you learn something? How do you move forward? How do you make those goals and set them and do them? I came across a great quote recently from Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters that looks like this. He says, I never took lessons to learn how to play the drums. I never took lessons to learn how to play the guitar. I just sort of figured it out. I think if you're passionate about something and you're driven and focused, that you can pretty much do anything you want to do in life. I believe that. I think that that's true. You can do pretty much anything you want. If you don't have a support system, you don't know the people that know how to do something, you go find them. If you're passionate and driven, you can figure it out. So did he set goals? Did he plan for a year ahead by saying he was going to spend all his spare time playing along with Beatles records so he could learn chords and rhythm and stuff? Or did he just do it because he was focused and that was what was next in his line to do? Because he did listen to Beatles records as a kid, and he did learn how to play drums and guitars by listening to Beatles records. I did that too, you know? But I didn't get to be in a band called the Foo Fighters. So how much planning do you have to do to achieve something? There's no right answer, no one-size-fits-all answer. The answer is whatever works for you. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something different. I remember back in the 80s and 90s, I used to have a day planner. Back then, everyone had those little 3-ring binders with calendars and blank paper to take notes and stuff. And I remember going to some sort of meeting or event where they learned this stuff, and you could learn how to, day planners and all that stuff. And I thought I'd try it. Frankly, though, it never worked for me. I don't know why. It worked great for some people. But when computers came along, and I got one in the early 90s, when we could all get the home PC, we started to use calendars there. And then we got online. We started to use calendars online. And then along came smartphones. And frankly, I ended up doing almost all my scheduling on that or on a Google Calendar. So it shows up everywhere. I just know what I'm supposed to do because I get reminded to do that. What about goals? Do I set goals? Frankly, only for big projects. Like when I wrote a couple of books, I had some timelines in mind, but basically I just carved out time in my daily schedule to write. It was the same when I've done home recording projects. I just made time for it. You just got to carve out the time. I had a vision of what I wanted, and I just made time to work on it. I figured that it would all work out, I don't obsess with any of that stuff. I just keep moving forward. You take a step, and eventually, if you keep moving forward, you get to the end of the line and you start something else. It's the same with sales. I spend a lot of time on my sales. A significant part of my day is taken up with prospecting for new customers and working for current clients or previous clients to do more business. So I have to set aside time to make that happen. So I just schedule it. Some days I might have other things that supersede it, but if I schedule the hour or two that I want to make calls, it's harder to ignore. So it pops up and says, it's time to do that. Okay, I got to do that. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. As they say in sales training, you don't have to like it, you just have to do it. You can't control the results, but you can control your behaviors and activities. And I think that's worth remembering and worth repeating. You can't control the results you get from anything you do, but you can control the behaviors and your activities. And without those behaviors and activities, though, you won't get any results. So do the behaviors, do the activities, and see what results come about of it. So planning for your 2019 trade show schedule comes down to a few things. Let's say we talk about trade shows for a minute. You got to know the big picture. Got to know how many shows, what the dates are, locations, what size booth you'll be setting up, and so on. So from that, you build your activities and behaviors in. For example, 3 months prior to a show, you sit down with your vendors and make sure that you have the conversation about timelines for any booth additions, any graphic reprints that need to be done. And then you set your schedule for activities based on that. You tell your graphic artist, we need it by then. You need a new design, you need it by then, so on and so forth. So if you're doing a new exhibit, certainly more variables there. If it's a simple 10 by 10, that you're going to be able to do that in a pretty short time. Check with your exhibit house on their production time. But if it's a larger booth, like you're doing a custom inline, a custom island booth, you've got to discuss that timeline with your exhibit house several months in advance. I'd start working 6 months ahead of time. So, time. It keeps on ticking, so keep working. Take time off, sleep, walk, ride your bike, ski, love somebody, hug somebody. So let's wrap up this version of the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Let me toss out this week's one good thing. And that's a Saturday off. I've got a Saturday off. I usually don't have Saturdays off, but I've been out there raking leaves, and now I'm doing this, and Scruffy is keeping warm because he's like, the house is too cold. You need to keep this warm. So Saturday's a day off. I'm just doing all sorts of stuff that needed to be done. I'm going to go work on the bathroom in just a minute. So anyway, a day off on a weekend. Let's call that this week's one good thing. Have yourself a great week, and let's connect again next week, shall we? And be sure and tell your friends, tell your colleagues if you like what you're hearing here on the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee.
Bye.